Usually, business entities base their operations on the normal triple bottom line approach, which we all understand, uh, which involves people, planet, and prosperity. And for a long time, this framework has continually focused only on social, environmental, and profits. So to achieve a better results, we believe that corporates need to stretch and adapt two more P's. That is to make them 5, which are people, planet, prosperity, and peace. Okay. People, planet, prosperity, peace, and partnership.
Just in brief about ourselves, the National Council of NGOs, which is an umbrella body that brings together NGOs in the country. And we are a self-regulating organization that brings together all the registered NGOs in the country. As you may be aware, the category of NGOs we have in Kenya are international in nature and also regional and local. International means those who operate in more than one country or in many countries, maybe in Africa and other regions here in Kenya. Regional means they just operate within a specific region. It could be certain region of the country, and also local NGOs. Local NGOs who operate just within the country. Being a self-regulating organization, we do a lot of capacity building. We are expected to do a lot of capacity building to the membership. That is the all NGOs at national and international level who are our members. We are supposed to champion key values. We have a code of conduct that helps our NGOs to operate within a given parameters. And we are also mandated to represent our constituencies, that is our NGOs, both at local and international level. And we also intervene on policies that affect the sector. So to come to the discussion, and based on the report that was released 2018-2019, there is a lot that needs to be done in terms of implementation around the same, and maybe by working together or partnering with the AfricaCSRconnect, it will be a good opportunity for us to ensure that the issues that they were raised in terms of even reporting and compliance is enhanced in the coming years, and especially as we go towards coming up report, generating report for 2019-2020, so that we see an improvement around the same. And then issues around sustainability, which is really a big challenge for our NGOs, because it has also been a challenge on our end, whereby you find an NGO is registered this particular year, and then within 2-3 years, you don't see the NGO again existing because of challenges of sustainability or even funding of the specific programs that the NGO is registered to operate. And then the issues of funding diversification is still a challenge, even on our end. It's something we have been struggling with, because maybe an NGO applies for a certain resources from a certain source, and then within a very short time, there is no more resources because the other one is exhausted. So it's something that we really need to work together as partners to see that this one is also realized. Again, issues around streamlining our work with maybe the national agenda priorities. And I'm glad you mentioned a good number of areas like the Big Four agenda as by Jubilee government, Vision 2030, our vision for the country, sustainable development goals, and other areas like the one you mentioned on HDI and other areas.
Period of the year, KEPSA conducted a research, and we realized that 81% of enterprises across all sectors showed that they have been negatively impacted by COVID. At Sustainable Inclusive Business, we believe that the new business model mindset is about being future-proof and creating a business model that grows not only profits, but has a positive impact on people, planet, as well as the bottom line, which is a profit.
So fast forward to 2020, and we are relaunching the EcoClubs of Kenya with a real focus on environment and animal welfare, really looking at how do we really deal with these problems. 18 years later, we still have issues with wildlife. Right now, the farm behind me, we have cattle and we also have wildlife. And this is not the national park. We are in the ecosystem around the major national park and Boseli National Park. But in this season, from now up to February, we will have wildlife in this area, we will have livestock, and we will have conflict. How are we dealing with these things 20 years down the road? So I'm very excited that Gerald and team have come up with a real felt need that local community-based initiatives like these ones, where the solution needs to come from here. How do we sustainably live with wildlife? How do we sustainably live with our animals? How do we re-engineer our environment to sustain all our animals? And how do these initiatives continue and become sustainable, being funded from within, locally, and being looked at as a social enterprise? Because the things they contribute are beyond just a good thing. It actually stabilizes the area, results in peace, and then you have local investments being able to come in because these, the conflicts are reduced in the area. So issues of local NGOs being able to be sustainable and move forward with their program is very, very timely. And I look forward to being part of that going forward. A lot has changed, but the issues 20 years ago are still very much the same.
And maybe I open to plenary at this point and ask, we are all contributing in one way or another in NGO. What are some of the things that we can do tangibly to address some of those issues so that we don't have this problem 20 years later? Is it the NGOs are not sustainable, as you mentioned, halfway broke? Is it the government's not giving us support? Is it the issue of funding? What is it that we can do?
It's always easy to shift the blame to the other party. For example, we might say that the government is not doing its role or the private sector is not doing its role. But the basic thing that I think can cause a change is the mind shift from us contributing towards having a change.
Yeah, I think we can focus on streamlining the entire ecosystem for the improvement of Human Development Index. Yeah, the way I understand that the Human Development Index is comprising of 3 different major areas. That is the livelihood, education, and healthcare. If we focus on these 3 areas, the sustainability of the communities or the progress of the communities will be automatically taken care of. The way I'm seeing in India as well, I believe that is the same thing is happening in Kenya and African continent, that the NGOs are working on the immediate issues that is coming from the communities. Yeah. But the sharp focus on creating the right kind of ecosystem to improve holistically on the human development indicators may not be happening. So the kind of a team AfricaCSRconnect is building, I am sure the ecosystem can be created for the communities to evolve, communities to develop in all around holistic direction. I mean, the way I see the NGOs are working on 1 or 2 parameters with their passion, with their resources. They are not working in a kind of a ecosystem way. So I feel the platform, the AfricaCSRconnect team and the NGOs can come together, develop a right ecosystem so that the growth can be inclusive, the development can be inclusive, and the communities, the locations can be developed in a holistic way. That's what thought comes in my mind.
We need to create a right ecosystem that's inclusive for growth and environment. And as Ebenezer said, we need to change mindset. It's a mind shift that we are asking for.
One of the things about changing communities or improving communities is really about getting people to care about the issue. getting them to understand that the issue is theirs, and moving away from a mindset of help coming from outside. Because the truth of the matter is that a lot of the resources we have within ourselves to create the change we need, but what we don't have is the right mindset. I'll give you an example. 10 years, 20 years ago here, it was laughable if you talked about growing hay as a drought risk reduction measure. Today, we have about 7 huge farms in this area that grow hay, and several smaller homesteads have their own, an eighth of an acre or an acre where they have at least paddocked, and it allows hay to grow during the dry season. Why did this shift change? 2 things happened. Champions started in the whole local area. So people were able to see over time that their cattle didn't move when there was drought. They were able to sustain their cattle very comfortably. So that began the change of, yes, growing hay and even buying hay is a thing. It can actually be one of the mitigation options. And that's what began to happen. So here people now buy hay. When we first moved in, people never used to buy hay. It was not even in the market. Now it comes all the way to the local markets here because a culture has been created. So changing of attitudes, somebody mentioned that, changing of knowledge, attitudes, and practices is very key. And we need to really work with our young people because their minds are ripe for change. The older generation probably are stuck in their ways, but the new generation, the young people, are open to doing things differently, managing their ecosystem differently. A second thing that needs to happen is, I believe, local governments, our county governments need to be aware that there's a huge gap between practice and policy and practice. The policy is there, but the practice is missing. And there needs to be bridging between what policy says and what practice is doing. And as long as that gap remains, we will see a huge disconnect between what the locals are doing on the ground and what the local governments or the national governments are talking about in round tables. So there also needs to be championing at the local government and national government for a change in the way business is done, so that even private sector will see the value of CSR to come and support local communities, build their name there, build the communities and build their future customers. And when the policy, the practice, private sector and local communities come together, you then build a sustainable ecosystem.
What can we do, or what's happening? That huge gap between policy and practice. Maybe the ones advising government or working with government or with KEPSA, maybe just shed some light on if there's anything being done in bridging this gap between policy and practice.
If you look at Kenya, Kenya is an interesting country and we are very good in terms of creating policy. So the question you'll ask yourself is, where do the rain hit us? There's always a disconnect between policy and implementation. And it's because government will play its role in terms of creating the policy, and the institutions that are then given the mandate to ensure that policy is enforced. But you cannot do this, or the government cannot do this without engaging the public. And that is why I began with the concept of changing the mind shift. It's more or less like you create rules in your home, but you do not explain the rules to your children, right? So how then do you expect these rules to be followed? So awareness creation of the policy is also important in this case. There's something that we always call behavior change communication. Now, you need to create awareness of the policy, create awareness of the regulations, and what are the benefits in terms of you being able to execute these policies. And then the public will see the benefit, and then it will cause a change of behavior. So in my view, of course, there are some gaps in terms of policy. For example, if we look at the need to shift from a linear to a circular economy, there are elements of which the government is still working on. And we as KEPSA are working closely with the government to be able to resolve these issues, because our main mandate is to look at how can we create a conducive environment for the private sector to operate. So it's through our public-private dialogues that we start these discussions and reach out to government and say, hey, we can improve on this particular policy. On the element of CSR, that's corporate social responsibility, it's also a matter of the companies now beginning to look at their business model and strategy and aligning them to SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. Sometimes we might look at SDGs and say, yeah, these are too many, they're 17, so where does my strategy connect with the SDGs? But it's an important element for us to incorporate within our business model. Some of the companies who learned this before, you will see that they have made major strides. If I give you an example of one of our members, with Safaricom, they did this a while back, and they're incorporating the SDGs into their strategy. So it's a mix, but I still go back to the basics on Mindshift. I always like looking at it from the simple perspective rather than looking at it from a very complicated angle, and at times it's not practical when it comes to execution. There's always this comment that they say that the academia makes best proposals, but when it comes to implementation, you need to find someone else who has a practical angle in terms of implementation.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am Arvind, Director for Operations and Strategy. Thanks for joining us today to witness the launch of AfricaCSRconnect, our cutting-edge CSR lifecycle management solution. AfricaCSRconnect enables corporates and NGOs to resolve CSR pain points by leveraging on a technology-enabled collaborative online platform for effective strategy formulation and efficient implementation. AfricaCSRconnect has 4 product offerings. For corporates, we have DGCSR Plus for providing complex and high-level solutions. Similarly, for micro, small, medium enterprises, we have MicroCSR Plus for providing simple and complex level solutions. Simple and based on the requirement. Simple solutions, I can say. Whereas for NGOs, social entrepreneurs, CBOs, charities, we have DG NGO Plus, which is a combination of technology and human intelligence for simple, complex, medium, high-level, cost-effective solutions. We have another product called Uplift Plus. This is a technology-enabled fundraising solutions to uplift NGOs, SCAs for creating sustainable and scalable impacts by ensuring transparency and accountability. These products helps CSR ecosystem stakeholders in resolving their pain points and to address their challenges. Some of the key challenges from corporate sides are ensuring SROI, compliances, SOPs, right impact creating thematic areas, designing SIPs, identifying right PIAs, appropriate right CSR lifecycle management systems for corporates. Similarly, we have a few challenges at the NGO side. Majorly, to give a few lists, compliance, governance, sustainability, capacity building, identifying right thematic areas again, tapping potential local resources, including funding, effective project management, monitoring, impact assessment, reporting, etc. Yeah. AfricaCSRconnect equips CSR ecosystem stakeholders with necessary tools and technology solutions for discovery, fulfillment, and engagement, resulting in better transparency and efficiency of the entire CSR lifecycle. Our solutions are aligned to different national and international frameworks such as SDGs, UNDP's Sustainability Development Goals, HDI, and so many. Our solutions are enabled with technology. Our solutions are innovative, scalable, sustainable, customizable, context-specific, and supportive of all CSR requirements. To achieve our dreams, we are prioritizing the untapped potential of local funding and project implementation partners, hence creating crucial connections to bridge the existing gaps within both NGO and CSR sectors. Furthermore, the connections created transcends corporates to volunteers, vendors, consultants, and professionals whose services are required within the CSR life cycle.